All right, and here we are back again with the First Team Fantasy to finish off all the game previews for this week. Going to start off with the afternoon games. Have the Bucks going into Santa Clara to take on the Niners. Over-under is 41.5 in this one, and the Niners are favored by 12 points.
Wow.
We talked about a little earlier how I was kind of on the side of, obviously you're going to start Mike Evans, but like Chris got, the Niners have been giving up quite a bit to fantasy wide receivers. But as you saw last week, they are kind of back in stride. They absolutely destroyed the Jags in Jacksonville. They're going to be at home in this one. It's not that I don't think, that Evans and Godwin don't have a chance to get it done. I just don't know that Baker's going to have that much time to throw the ball.
Yeah.
I think the best play in this game on the side of the Buccaneers is going to be Rachaad White. I think given the small amount of time that Baker will have in the pocket, there's going to be a lot of dump offs, and we have seen Rachaad get a whole lot of volume target-wise out of that backfield. So I think he'll do well in this game fantasy-wise. Obviously, the efficiency on the ground isn't something that's been there in the first place. So it's not something I'm going to start worrying about this week. Yeah, that's really about it as far as the Buccaneers go. It is worth mentioning that they are only giving up 87.2 yards on the ground. So, if you listen to our parlay that we made in the first part of this episode, then you will have seen we took the Christian McCaffrey passing yards because even if McCaffrey isn't effective per se rushing the ball, well, they'll just get him out in a little bit of space. So the usage is nothing I'll ever be worried about. He will get it done one way or another. But yeah, the Buccaneers are giving up 267 passing yards per game. So Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle. Tampa Bay is 27th against fantasy wide receivers. So Ayuk and Deebo smash starts. It's automatic. Kittle, you're obviously starting, but I think it should be a good day for the Niners. I think it should be a good day for Brock Purdy. And yeah, if you want to go ahead and start the Niners defense in this one, like I said, I think they will be getting a whole lot of pressure, and pressure a lot of times results in turnovers. So
Yeah.
that's about all I got for this one. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah. And my only afternoon game is the Jets at the Bills. At least on one side of the ball, it's pretty straightforward, and that is the Jets side of the ball. You are starting Breece Hall, and you are starting Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson's been dealing with an elbow injury. He says he's fine. He plans to play. I expect him to play.
Yeah.
And he will obviously be hyper-targeted. Someone worth mentioning is Tyler Conklin, because he has been consistent, especially as of recent. But the tight end position's finally, as we said, it's finally starting to stabilize a little bit, where there's like 8 to 10 tight ends that I'm like, okay, I feel comfortable starting them. And I feel like Tyler Conklin just falls slightly out of that only because his quarterback is Zach Wilson. So that obviously hurts him a little bit, but I do like Tyler Conklin. He can go in there and get you, 9 to 12 fantasy points, and that gets it done at the tight end position.
Well, I think especially if you're at a point where, you're in a league, Taysom Hill, Trey McBride, Logan Thomas, a lot of guys are probably gone. And if you happen to be one of the people who Mark Andrews, there Isaiah Likely is an option, but we've seen solid performances and a decent amount of target volume for Tyler Conklin.
Yeah.
So I think you could go out and pick him up right now if you lost, Mark Andrews, something you're not going to have to wait around and deal with for the next week. So just something to consider.
No, absolutely. 100% agree with that. Even guys like David Njoku that will now have like PJ Walker or DTR. I like Njoku a little more, but it's just, there's a couple guys that, Tyler Conklin could possibly get in over.
Yeah, if this volume, if it's going to be pretty much just Wilson and Conklin, then I mean, we're gonna have to see. But we've seen a couple good weeks in a row out of Conklin, so
Yeah. And then the Bills side of the ball are 3 absolute must-fires. Josh Allen. Yeah, I was about to say Gabe Davis. Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Dalton Kincaid. And then we get into the shaky ones, which are Gabe Davis and James Cook. Yet again. The Jets are 3rd against the pass. We actually saw them cause a lot of problems for Josh Allen week 1. Again, that was a just crazy game because obviously the Aaron Rodgers injury. There was just a lot going on, and it was the first week of the season. Gabe Davis
offers no more consistency than Khalil Shakir at this point.
No, he does not. It's just his upside is higher. That's it.
Yes.
That's the only difference between them. Gabe Davis, like I said, you know what you're going to get. Which is, you don't know what you're going to get. He's either going to completely boom you or completely burn you.
Yeah. He is probably... It sucks because in the beginning of the season, I was riding for him. He was consistent, and then he remembered that he's Gabe Davis,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not allowed for him. He is the ultimate roll of the dice.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I mean, touchdowns, like we say, aren't a sticky stat unless you were Gabe Davis through the first 5 weeks, and unless you're Courtland Sutton on the whole season, apparently. Courtland Sutton's just going to keep catching them, but...
More Gus Edwards.
Yeah, on the ground, yeah. Now, obviously we know the Bills fired their offensive coordinator. It was Ken Dorsey. It is now Joe Brady. James Cook. I don't know. I just don't know. He's a guy where if you can bench him, you may have to. It's tough because the Jets are 31st against the rush. They give up 138 yards on the ground.
I think in regards to James Cook, you just have to start him.
You do. Like me, I have to start him, but it's painful with the Bills going back and forth. Are we ever going to play this young, talented running back more than 55% of the snaps? I mean,
they much prefer to play the oldest running back in the league,
which is just unbelievable. But I do agree with Schiff on this one. You probably do have to play James Cook, like I am. It's just something you have to do and hope that they use him how they should because he is explosive.
Yeah. Yeah, good luck to all the James Cook owners on that one. I have a league that I will be starting him in as well. And I just played against Joe Mixon and Gus Edwards in that league. So,
jeez.
Needing a lot.
Yeah.
Needing a lot.
Yeah.
On to my next and final afternoon game, which will be the Seahawks heading into Los Angeles to take on the Rams. Over-under is 46 in this one. Seattle is favored by 1. Seattle, we finally saw Geno Smith bless us with a good fantasy week last week.
Yeah.
And, now they're turning around and playing the Rams defense, giving up 217 pass yards per game. Not necessarily the best around the middle of the pack, but still presents a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
I think I have enough faith in Geno Smith this week. It's not one of my necessarily preferred options. I mean, there's a league like that same league that I said I'm starting James Cook in. I have Geno Smith, Ken Walker as well. What's
going on with you in that league, dude?
They're just guys that, Yeah,
I know.
It's there, but it's like, is it going to be this week or no? Because, I mean, we've seen Geno get it done. We saw him get it done all last year. This year has been really lackluster. Like I said last week, we finally saw some improvement.
Mm-hmm.
And it happened to be against the worst, not the worst, but one of the worst pass defenses in the league, in the Washington Commanders. I would like to see him get it done again this week. Like I said, the Rams they're giving up 22.7 points per game. Seahawks are scoring around 22 points per game. I think I'm starting Geno. I think Geno
Yeah.
should have a decent week. I'm hoping he gets around 20 points. Ken Walker, the Rams are giving up 122.8 yards on the ground per week. You're starting Ken Walker.
Mm-hmm.
We have seen the snap share get a little funky with him and Charbonnet, but Ken has also been a little bit banged up. So I think he should be back to full form, getting his full share of the touches this week. Now, I mentioned in the injury report, we don't know exactly whether or not Tyler Lockett's going to play yet again. This is another week that we have seen him miss a practice late in the week, but once again, it has not been the first time that he's done it and still played.
Yeah.
So I'm banking on him playing until I get any further notice. I'm starting him. He's been solid. He has been solid. He's had some bad weeks, but I mean, him, DK, you have to throw. I don't think you can really bench DK.
Yeah.
And I'm not necessarily against starting JSN. I mean, okay, so the Rams are 7th against fantasy wide receivers. I guess I'm lower on JSN than the other two, just due to that fact, but I'm still with Lockett and DK. I'm still rolling them out every week.
Yeah.
On to the Rams side of the ball. Kyron's still not yet off IR, so it's going to be Darrell Henderson. Seahawks are giving up 116 yards on the ground, given what we've seen out of Henderson, and the Rams are currently rushing for 104 yards per game. I'll throw him out there.
Yeah.
I don't hate the Henderson start.
Yeah.
Seahawks are giving up 238 yards through the air. Stafford should be good to go in this one. For the love of God, could we please get a decent week out of Puka and Cooper Kupp? It has been a rough 3 weeks.
Yeah.
It really has. And I mean, the Brett Ripon thing I get, but you know, we've seen them have bad weeks with Stafford.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that this is the get right week. I'm praying for it. I need Puka to show up in Dynasty. And it's very like you're not benching either of the two of them. But you're also not starting anybody else on the Rams aside from Puka, Henderson, or Kupp. So,
Yeah.
with that, we will go into our Sunday night game. And Derek has the Vikings, who are the road team. Denver's favored by 2 points, and the over-under is 43. So, Derek, you can go ahead and take it away.
Yeah. I mean, looking at Denver's defensive stats, like they're still dead last against the rush, giving up 158 yards. They're 23rd against the pass, 243 yards. But Denver's also 3-0 in their past 3 games.
Yeah, it's like I'm more inclined to look at these like past 3 games.
With them,
because,
yeah.
And especially that you look back to that Dolphins game, it still really skews things.
Yeah, it does.
Because 400 yards on the ground, 70 points, like that, it doesn't, until you look at the numbers and without like having that in the back of your mind, you're thinking like, oh, Denver's defense is just terrible. Throw everyone out against them. It's like, no, they've actually been fairly good in this last stretch of 3 games.
And I mean, okay, the Packers aren't very good, but their last 2 games, they beat the Chiefs and they beat the Bills. Although the Bills gave them the game at the end, but either way, they're right there with the Bills, and then they beat the Bills. So
and that defense has been causing turnovers.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I just did not understand is how this Denver defense was ranked so low when their defense carried them through last season to even being somewhat relevant. The defense is finally coming alive. Maybe the guys they let go, right? Sometimes the personality, whatever the scheme, it just doesn't fit. It seems like in their case, they weeded out a couple bad apples and they're getting it to work. So Josh Dobbs has been very on as of late. It's tough because What, the quarterbacks on bye this week are like Derek Carr. I don't know why I'm blanking.
Because it's Desmond Ritter.
That's why. Desmond Ritter, Mac Jones. That's disgusting. There's no like. I'm
No,
pretty sure
it's
there's no big quarterback on bye this week, so all the big names are there. So I don't know how I
yeah. No, the
feel.
biggest one's probably Taysom Hill.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know how I feel about the Josh Dobbs start this week. If you really want to get dicey, go ahead. But I do think the Broncos could show up to play again this week. If
Yeah, I
Mattis,
mean it's at home. They are not far out of a playoff berth.
no,
The Bengals just lost. Bengals are 5-5. Raiders are 5. I mean, this is big for them.
yeah, and I think they'll show up. It's tough. Madison questionable with the concussion. He's been logging limited practices, but he still has not cleared the protocol. So if he does not, it's going to be Ty Chandler. As we said, he's a complete rental. I don't necessarily like starting him this week. Like honestly, unless you had Madison and he was like, your only RB that you could start, and then you had to pick up Ty Chandler, obviously as a spot fill, that's something you just have to do. But
Yeah.
I don't necessarily like the running backs or Josh Dobbs that much this week. Obviously, if Justin Jefferson returns, you roll him out there. Obviously.
Yeah, regardless.
If he comes back, you start him no matter what. Jordan Addison is getting the start. He has to get the start. KJ Osborne, Brandon Powell, nah, no. TJ Hawkinson, yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's just how it is. Your three big names for the Vikings, you have to start them.
Yeah. And that'll take us right into the Broncos side of the ball, where the Broncos are actually this year 15th in the league in points per game.
Mm-hmm.
They're actually averaging 3 touchdowns per game, which if you watch the Denver Broncos last year, that is a complete 180.
Yeah.
The thing I'm most interested in, they're running the ball for 117 yards per game, and Javonte Williams has planted his flag as the bell cow
Mm-hmm.
in Denver. If you waited it out on him, I think he's going to be a guy down the stretch in this season with the Broncos playing better football. He's getting opportunities to score now. He is very clearly taking the volume in that backfield. While Minnesota only gives up 98.8 yards on the ground, I still like Javonte in this one.
Yeah.
And they've shown they'll throw him the ball as well. He scored on a pass.
Yeah.
In the last week. So, I mean, I like Javonte a lot. Cortland Sutton, you can't fight it at this point. You can try and leave him on your bench and watch him go off on your bench. It's just and the thing about it, if you're watching the touchdowns that he has caught, the dude is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Cortland Sutton is a great football player.
Yeah.
Like, you don't just do that. Like, he's very good. So he's, in my opinion, and I think obviously established himself as the wide receiver 1 there.
Yeah.
And he's a must start. Jerry Jeudy is a bit more questionable, but then he actually is questionable this week. But I don't hate the start.
Yeah.
It's obviously got more risk involved. And Russ, we talked about how there aren't very many quarterbacks on bye this week, so you shouldn't really be needy. Especially, I mean, if you had Joe Burrow, he already played, so
too late.
Yeah,
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that about does it for that one. And on to our final game,
which is
the best game of the week by far.
Yeah, the Monday night game. The Eagles at the Chiefs, the Super Bowl rematch, which should be a very good game. I'm covering the Eagles side of the ball, so I'll speak on the Chiefs defense, which, as Schiff has mentioned.
Before you get into that, the Chiefs are favored by 2.5 points, and the over-under is 45.5 in this one.
So Chiefs
So
favored by 2.5, which means the Eagles are actually favored by a half because the Chiefs get the 3-point home spread.
they're
Wow.
thinking it's gonna be a dogfight,
Yeah. No, and
and I'm hoping it is.
it
I,
probably will be.
we deserve it. We
Yeah.
deserve this on a Monday night. So please,
Yeah.
please.
No, absolutely. And the Chiefs defense has actually kind of saved the offense at times through this season. They have the 5th ranked pass defense, 176 yards, the 17th ranked rush defense, 112. The Eagles are so high powered
And they're
on
only
offense.
giving up 15.9 points per game, which is tied for first with the Niners.
Yeah. Their defense has been incredible.
Rock solid.
And Schiff has said, Jalen Hurts this week as his sit of the week. Obviously, we did disclose it's Jalen Hurts. You can't sit.
Yes,
you can't sit him. Our start sits are mainly predictions of guys that are going to bust and guys that are going to boom, But obviously, with the Eagles, you have to start your guys. You have to start Jalen Hurts. You have to start DeAndre Swift, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, because Dallas Goedert, with that forearm injury, is going to be out this week and probably the next 2 to 3 weeks at least. So
yeah, it was a break, right? Or at least
it was
a
a fracture.
Yeah, so that's as a tight end who is not just a route runner, they block quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge injury.
Yeah. So I mean, it's very simple. Jake Elliott, I like to start because we could see some field goals because Chiefs defense has been good, and then Eagles defense. It's tough in games like this. Like the Chiefs and the Eagles, I don't necessarily love starting either of their defenses. It's just
it's one I just preferred. I think there's better options this week. I think you could stash the Eagles.
mm-hmm.
For example, the Commanders are playing Tommy DeVito this week
at
home. There are better options out there.
Yeah.
If you can go out and get the Jags playing the Titans, things like that. One thing I wanted to mention before even getting into the Chiefs side of the ball was the reason that, I mentioned my concern for the Jalen Hurts start this week and just for the Eagles side, honestly, for this game in general. This is the third matchup with the Chiefs that is supposed to be fireworks, huge. Jaguars.
Mm-hmm.
That game was a defensive battle. That was two offenses who were at the time rocking, going crazy. Neither team scored 20 points.
17-9. Yeah.
You go to the Dolphins and Chiefs game. Another game that was supposed to be. Dolphins didn't score in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
These are explosive offense. It just worries me that the Chiefs defense is elite. Yeah. They are elite to the point where they can stifle an explosive offense. And while I've had, Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, they've given us no reason to not have confidence in them. It's just we've seen a pattern of these games that are supposed to be very big, very high scoring. Chiefs defense shuts that right down.
Mm-hmm.
So it is just a cause for concern. On to the Chiefs offense, 23.1 points per game, 13th right now, 264 passing yards per game, putting them at 5th, and only 103.8 on the ground. They have been very lacking in that department. Isaiah Pacheco's kind of fallen off a bit. And this week is not the one.
No.
Honestly, if you have another running back, you could start over Isaiah Pacheco. I'm going to be honest. If Devin Singletary is available and Dameon Pierce doesn't play, I'd prefer to start Devin Singletary against Arizona than play Isaiah Pacheco against the Eagles defense, currently giving up 66.3 yards per game on the ground.
It's disgusting.
I don't want a part in that. I really don't.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be looking back at the end of the game mad because Isaiah Pacheco got me 6 points on Monday.
Yeah.
And if you have another option, please go with that.
Yeah.
I just do not see Travis Kelce's going to have a good game.
Yeah.
Eagles defense currently giving up 257 passing yards per game. I do not foresee Travis Kelce being stifled in this one. Rashee Rice, I think, has given us enough to confidently at least throw him in a flex position. And then no need to mention Patrick Mahomes. I mean,
Yeah.
you're starting him no matter the matchup.
Yeah.
If he doesn't get it done, he doesn't get it done, whatever. But yeah, nobody else. No Kadarius Toney, any of those guys. We talk about this every time. Just do yourself the favor and let somebody else try to experiment with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, with that, that'll be all. Any updates we get on any players, like we said, we will update all of you guys through our social media. So stay up to date with that. Like we always mention, if you would like to get on the fun with the parlays with us, get in our FTF chat on the Sleeper app. All you got to do is hit us up. We'll help you, walk you through the process of getting set up and everything. We are one message away. So never hesitate to contact us for anything you guys might need, any help with fantasy, regardless. We're there 24/7. You can hit us up. Derek, go ahead and finish it off.
Come back next time for the recaps. Take more ups with the first team.
Yes, indeed.